Hi, I'm Doug,
And I'm Yvette.
and your search for the next Sweet Sweet podcast is over.
Welcome to Search Complete. Hello and welcome to Search Complete, a podcast where we see what the internet has been searching for by taking the first part of a question and seeing what Google thinks we want to know. But before typing it in, we'll guess how it autocompletes, and you can play along at home. We can have a good laugh at society's expense, and then we'll realise we actually want to know the answers.
And this week we'll be typing in, is it illegal to? So what are your guesses, Yvette?
I feel like number one has to be, is it illegal to smoke weed?
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be the top result. And if it's not that, it will be take drugs, a more generic.
I feel like smoke weed is probably more ambiguous than like take drugs in general, because I feel like smoking weed is one of those things that seems not that bad but actually like is illegal, but then now a lot of places have started legalizing, so I think there's a lot of confusion about whether it's actually allowed or not. Whereas, you know, is it illegal to take heroin?
Yeah, I think we know the answer to that one.
Probably rightly so illegal.
Perfectly fine. What?
Yeah, so I think smoke weed is probably going to be up there because it's the sort of thing that people will be confused about in the current climate.
100% agree. Hands down is going to be one of those.
So, what do you reckon?
I think something that a lot of people are unsure of is it okay to be like naked in public?
Yeah, so one thing I was thinking of actually was like, is it illegal to be naked in your own garden? Because like technically that's private property, but then if your neighbours see, is that public indecency? But then you're not in public, you're in your garden, but then it is awkward for your neighbours. Like, I don't know, if you saw your neighbour and you're like, oh, but then you're like, can I call the police?
Call the police.
Or will they be like, go away, they're in their own garden?
I feel like it must be okay. Like, if you think about it, it's like if you saw someone through their window and they were naked, you couldn't be like, oh my god, they were naked in their own home.
Yeah. Maybe if you were like in your front garden, that's maybe less okay.
Yeah,
So
I hope that comes
could
up
be on
then.
there. Is it illegal to be naked in your own garden?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking there might be things like stuff you're told that you're not allowed to do, but you're not sure if it's an actual law. Like, is it illegal to cycle on the pavement?
Is it illegal to, like, ride a Segway?
Yeah, I think in the UK it's a bit big, you know, like the Segways and also those electric scooters. It's unclear where you're actually allowed to ride them. I think it's...
But I think the answer is nowhere, apart from private property.
Yeah, and then it's a bit pointless having one, really.
We should probably say that the results we're going to get are going to be based for, like, UK stuff, and laws are going to be different in different countries.
But it'll be interesting, like maybe some of our research will... the differences in different countries.
Yeah, if you do get any, while you're playing along at home, if you do get any different results that we get later on, please send it in. We'd be really interested. Moving on, I've put, is it illegal to punch someone?
Okay.
Or, like, attack someone? And I also think there's something along the lines of, like, is it illegal to act in self-defense?
Yeah, well, I always thought it was something like how many times you hit someone. Like, if you hit someone more than 7 times, it doesn't count as self-defense or something like that.
So 6 is...
If you've got a claim for a self-defense, like if they've not hit you at all and you hit them 6 times, I think that's bad. But if you're fighting and you're hitting back as self-defense, you can't hit them more than a certain amount of times. So, I don't know if that's true, but that's what I thought.
I think what it is actually is you're allowed to do as much as you want to take them out, and then anything above, like basically putting them on the ground, anything after that is just attacking them. When we did jiu-jitsu, it was like, you got to be careful. It's kind of, everything has to be done in one motion. If you then do like a second motion, that could be claimed as attacking someone, which I think is ridiculous. I think the other one is you're allowed to use the same amount of force that they were going to do to you.
Yeah, although sometimes it's difficult to know, isn't it?
I mean, the laws can be so ambiguous anyway. Moving on from like beating people up.
One thing I thought was, is it illegal to keep money you find on the floor? Or like just find in general? Because I thought that it was like depends on how much money you find. Because if it was like a tenner that you'd lost, you probably wouldn't tell the police about it.
Yeah.
But if you'd lost like a bag that had hundreds of pounds in, you might report it. So if you found loads of money, someone might have reported it. So you should probably go to the police. I actually read an article about this recently though, but there's no limit. Like if you find any amount of money, you're not legally required to tell the police.
Genuinely?
Yeah, there's a woman who found like £60,000 in a river or something in a plastic bag, and she brought it to the police, but then the police were like, there's not a law that you have to bring it to the police.
Oh,
But
so
then-
did she hand it in?
She did, yeah,
Wow.
because I think just, morally, I feel like there's a moral obligation if you find a lot of money to bring it in, but
Yeah.
you, couldn't get charged with anything for keeping money, especially if there's no way to trace it.
Yes.
Like, if you find someone's wallet with their ID in, you have to bring it in, because it's obvious whose it is, and it's obviously not yours. But if you just find cash, apparently that's not a law. But maybe if we look it up, we can find out more about...
Personally, I like to live by, if it's coins, you can keep it. If it's notes, you should probably try and hand it in.
Yeah, at least they'll
That's how I live my life.
Has anyone lost a tenner? Or probably then 5 people will turn around and be like, yeah, I'll have it.
Can't trust anyone.
Yeah.
Another one I've got is kind of weird, but in the UK, there's this thing that's like, you're allowed to pee in a policeman's hat, but only if you're pregnant. And I think a lot of people will search that up to see if it's bullshit or not.
I was thinking that actually. Not the policeman's hat thing, but just generally laws that are like weird laws and that you might Google, is it illegal to, just to check if that's actually a real law or not. Because the thing that I was thinking of was, is it illegal to keep a deer if you accidentally hit it with your car? Because there's like, did you know that? Where it's like...
I've heard of this.
It's illegal to keep it and like eat the meat if you've hit it with your car, but if...
Someone else
the person behind, if they just find it, they can keep it or something like that. And I think that's supposed to stop you just ramming down animals deliberately with your car. But I don't know if that's true or not, so maybe we'll see if that's a search result.
The last one that I thought of that's going to be popular is like, is it illegal to download movies or music?
Yeah.
Because I think it's one of those things that is so common for people to like go on LimeWire or whatever the kids use these days.
Yeah, I think LimeWire's probably a bit outdated now.
Pirate Bay or whatever.
Yeah.
But is it actually illegal to do that? And I think it's a question a lot of people have. Have you got any other ones?
I don't think so. Yeah, I just hope that it's nothing that should like obviously be illegal.
Is it illegal to murder my husband?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see the results for this one, I think.
Before we go ahead and type in, is it illegal to, into Google, incognito, please feel free to send in what you've guessed and stuff like that to either our Twitter, which is at scpodcast_UK, or you can email us at searchcompletepodcast@gmail.com, and then we might read some of them out or retweet them in the next episode.
Yeah, and obviously later on, if you get different search results to us from being in a different country, would be interesting to see what those are as well.
For sure. Here we go. I'm typing it in. Is it illegal to... Guess what the first
smoke
of.
weed, number 1. Oh, prank call. We didn't think of that.
Eat and drive.
Yeah, because obviously you wouldn't have both hands on the wheel if you're eating and driving. Is it illegal to burn money? I suppose that might be a sort of,
Who is doing that? Who is like, I wonder if I can burn this money I own. Why?
Maybe if you found loads of money in the street and then the police come round and you get nervous.
Is it illegal to drive barefoot? Please do not drive barefoot. Next one after that is it illegal to drive without shoes? My guess would be, but it's definitely a bad idea.
But what if you've got like high heels on or something and it's actually more dangerous to drive with your shoes on than it would be to drive with barefoot?
Then bring suitable footwear for driving. Yeah, I get it.
Or like if you've got flip-flops or something.
Oof, that is not a good idea. Next one, is it illegal to smoke and drive? Very similar to the eat and drive one. Is it illegal to marry your cousin?
Didn't think of that one.
Yeah, I can see why someone might search that. Like, morally, maybe not, but is it illegal? I'm actually not sure. Is it illegal to drive without a wing mirror?
I feel like people get pulled over for that sort of stuff, right? You get pulled over if your lights aren't working. So I feel like you should probably have both your wing mirrors. You're probably legally allowed to drive to the garage to get your wing mirror fixed, but probably not ideally. I've definitely seen a few cars with their wing mirrors like gaffer taped on.
Does that count? I guess so.
But yeah, it's really annoying if someone just bashes your wing mirror off while your car's parked. Although a lot of cars have that thing, where they fold in now when you lock the car. That's quite good. And is it illegal to park on the pavement?
I'm sensing a theme here. A lot of driving ones, and I guess we didn't think of it because we don't drive it anymore anyway.
And also it kind of suggests that like driving education needs to be a bit better in this country.
Anyway, we're going to go away and research the ones that we think are the most interesting, and then we'll be right back with the answers. Okay, we are back. Got some interesting stuff for you guys. I'm going to go first this week, and I've been looking at, is it illegal to prank call? Maybe a little outdated, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like kids probably, prank calling to me seems like a kid thing, right? Like, I got the Bart Simpson image in my head straight away with prank call, but I feel like kids probably don't do that anymore. They probably just, shitpost.
Prank TikTok each other?
I feel like it's more like, I don't know, sick roasts online and a bit of trolling, maybe some dank memes.
Yeah. So the reason I think it's actually so popular is because of actual social media and being able to share the prank calls.
Also,
other people can want to be able to do it as well, but they obviously don't want to break the law while doing it.
Also, I feel like everyone has caller ID now. Whereas, in the 90s
true.
and stuff, you wouldn't know who was calling, so I feel like you were getting away with it more.
Yeah. So, a prank call, as just a definition, so we're all on the same page.
For any of you young people that are into the dank memes instead.
Prank calls are telephone practical jokes where the caller pretends to be someone else, puts on funny voices, or asks silly questions, and basically creates a fake scenario to fool their victim. So, Yvette, what do you think makes a prank call legal or not?
I've always thought of prank calls as being kind of harmless. You know, the old classic of oh, excuse me, sir, is your refrigerator running? Yes, I think so. Better go catch it then. And it's like, you never know, do you not know
I've never heard that one
That's a
before.
classic, but it's it's annoying, but it's harmless.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's illegal, but I guess if it's probably more the intent, if you repeatedly call the same person to the extent that they would want to call the police about it, then it would probably be illegal because then it's like harassment. But I feel like if you do it and it's all in good humour, then it's probably fine. Especially if you call your friend and you do a kind of refrigerator running type joke, they might see the funny side. But if it's someone that you don't really know and you're constantly hassling them, then you could probably get punished for that.
Yeah, so that's pretty spot on, to be honest. So prank calling itself is not inherently legal, but there's a couple of situations where it's not okay. First one is if you're impersonating a person of authority, then it's illegal. It's just generally illegal to do that in general, whether it be on the phone or not.
Yeah.
Recording and sharing a call is illegal without consent of the other party member.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And repeatedly calling someone and saying abusive things is just considered harassment and is illegal.
Okay.
So avoid all the above and then go ahead, prank away.
Do we have a phone number for the podcast?
No, we do not.
A few. Otherwise, we're going to be encouraging everyone to prank call. It might be on us.
Yeah. You could prank email us what you think of this podcast.
Or email us if you've ever done a prank call or if you know of your favourite prank call, script, I suppose. Yeah, email us and let us know because I'm sure there's some really funny ones out there.
Yeah. So actually, there's a couple of very famous or infamous ones that I wanted to talk about. The most popular one by far is definitely the Bart Simpson sketch.
I feel like there's a lot of the Bart Simpson ones. It's a running joke where he always calls Mose.
What's the scenario that happens?
So usually Bart's at home and he's heh, and then he gets the phone and he rings up Mose, who's the guy who runs the bar, and he's often asking for someone, and so then Mo calls it out.
Yeah.
I'm looking for... blank,
yeah.
blank, and it's usually something sort of butts, and then everyone in the bar laughs, and then Bart laughs.
And he's looking for someone with second name. I've got an example here. Second name Roch, first name Mike, and then Mo's like, "Hey, have we got a Mike Roch here? I'm looking for Mike Roch."
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite a good one. Another infamous one, which is pretty bad, is so there was an Australian radio show, and they pretended to be the Queen. And they actually got through to Will and Kate's own, as in Prince William and her wife when she was in labour.
Oh, God.
And actually got through to their GP and found out about Kate's health while she was in hospital.
I feel like that's more than a prank call, surely.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretending to be someone else. It was not legal, but...
But that's not a prank, is it?
I don't know, maybe they didn't expect to get through with it.
Maybe, yeah.
They were
Is it live
like,
on air then?
I don't actually know if it was live, but it definitely was broadcasted somewhere. Can you imagine being like, "Hello, it's the Queen here. I'd like to know how my grandson and granddaughter-in-law is doing.
I feel like
it must have been really good.
Well, also, but I feel like if you got a call and the person on the call was saying that it was the Queen, you wouldn't want to hang up on the Queen.
That is
right?
true.
You'd think, is it more than my job's worth to hang up on the Queen or give information to the caller in case it might be the Queen? Like, you're not going to ask the Queen for, like, security codes and stuff, because it's like, I'm the bloody Queen, just put me through! Yeah, so I think that's quite an iffy one.
Yeah, I can understand why the person on the other end actually gave the info. And a very much more wholesome one is there was I can't remember, Australian or a New Zealand radio show where they call up this random person and pretend like they're about to go into a job interview. They're like, oh, I just need another reference. They probably won't call you.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this.
Yeah, they probably won't call you. And then they do call him back 10 minutes later, and they ask all these personal questions about this guy they don't even know. But the guy on the other end, this complete stranger, is such a good lad.
Yeah, I remember this.
He's like dubbed the nicest guy in Australia or something.
Yeah, they ring him at the moment, and they're like, I'm really desperate, and I don't have anyone to call, but can you just pretend that you used to be my boss and just say something nice about me if they call or something.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to put a link to that in the show notes because you have to check it out if you have not seen it already.
I think it's an Australian guy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is Australian.
All right, so moving on to topic number 2, this is one I think that we both guessed. Yes. Is it illegal to smoke weed? And the short answer is that in the UK, no, weed is illegal. It's not legal to smoke weed even in your own property. So if you're caught in possession of like a sort of a small amount for personal use, if it's the first time, the police will confiscate it and can give you a cannabis warning notice.
Specific cannabis warning notice. Is that prevalent?
I assume that it gets recorded somewhere, and then if they catch you again, then they can give you an on-the-spot fine of £90 that you have to pay within 14 days. And then if you get caught a third time, you can be arrested and prosecuted. And then if you're found guilty, spend 28 days in prison.
So it's really not that bad.
Yeah, just for like possession of personal use.
Possession of, okay.
Is not that bad. Intent to supply carries a harsher punishment, and that the police can decide if you've got intent to supply by the amount that you have, or like if you've got loads and loads of plants, or also if you've got like equipment like scales and little baggies and the
We've seen with like the UV lights and stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that you would need to have a larger scale distribution.
Yeah.
But cannabis is a Class B drug in the UK, which means that for possession there's up to 5 years in prison.
Okay.
But it depends how much you have, though. Okay. I feel like if you only have a few grams for that you would casually use, then the punishment fits the crime type thing.
Yeah,
so, but then if you're found for supply and production, that's like up to 14 years in prison.
Serious then. Yeah.
Although saying that, I think the seriousness of kind of cannabis related offences is starting to be de-escalated in the UK.
Yeah.
So for instance, in Durham, the chief of police has actually said that they will not be actively targeting users of cannabis.
Okay. So that's not suppliers, that's just people who use it personally.
Yeah, so if you use it, or if you've only got like a couple of plants for personal use, you wouldn't get raided by the police, but it is still illegal, so it's like not a good idea to just light up in front of a policeman or like, keep smoking in your garden. That pisses off the neighbours, so they'll call the police, because then obviously the police would have to be seen to be doing something about it. But the police have basically just said that they won't take an active interest in people that are just, recreationally using.
But this is just in Durham for now.
Yeah. So there's a number of reasons why they've said that they're going to relax their policing.
Okay.
So the number one is funding. So there's been a lot of cuts to police funding. So they've got a need to prioritise resources, and they want to focus on like the people who produce drugs on a larger scale and like more serious crimes, rather than just people who just like want to get high on the weekends.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that raiding people's house when they've only got like 5 grams of weed is really going to stop it. Like,
can you imagine if you're just in your house, like having one joint, and then like this SWAT team comes in?
I mean,
You're under arrest, and you're there just like high off your tits, like what the hell?
I think I smoked too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're probably taking the word raiders a bit
I know,
more.
I know.
They're probably not going to bash the door in with that big, metal post thing, but
Close the doors.
yeah, it's just that they won't make a big deal out of it if you're found with possession. Like, there's only, I can't remember the percentage now, but it's not, sometimes the police don't always even issue you that warning or the fine. They're just
don't do it.
Don't
slap on the hand.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's not all. It's not. I really doubt it's worth the paperwork for them as well.
Exactly. So another reason for them not going after the users is that punishing the users is just ineffective, and they believe that the policy on drug addiction should be moved to the Department of Health, and they should focus on treating people rather than punishing them. So although weed is not as addictive as heroin or something really serious, there's still about 10% of users that can become dependent on it if they use really regularly.
Okay, I was about to ask that. Is it addictive?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people will smoke it, mixed with tobacco as well. So then you can have a nicotine addiction as well. But there are withdrawal symptoms, especially if you smoke every day. You can find, have trouble sleeping and things to come off it. So if you did want to quit smoking weed, then getting arrested isn't going to help you.
Yeah.
Going to actually get help is going to be much better.
It feels on a similar level to alcohol.
Yeah.
It's just an illegal version of alcohol almost. Because not many people are addicted to alcohol, but there is that risk.
So another couple of reasons listed for Durham's de-escalation of the cannabis policing are also just arguments for legalization of cannabis in this country. Mm-hmm. So they think that legalizing cannabis would make it safer for the users. So the drugs are getting cheaper and stronger, more readily available, and therefore more dangerous.
Oh, okay.
So they've come to the conclusion that people aren't going to stop smoking weed, but if you make it legal, then you can regulate the market and make sure that it's old-fashioned cannabis, which has got a lower THC content, which is the psychoactive, rather than skunk or something that's really strong. And then also they make the point that if you made cannabis legal, then you could actually tax it and get your money back in a way, because at the moment we're just putting money into the police force, which is trying to then stop people from smoking, whereas if you made it legal, then we'd get money back through the tax.
Yeah.
So how much do you reckon the black market cannabis trade is worth
in the UK?
In the UK.
Jeez, I don't know. I'm going to say 20 mil.
2.5 billion.
Oh, that's just a few zeros off there.
Yeah, and that money just all goes to criminals because there's no infrastructure for it legally. So this economic study reckons that tax yields could be between 204 million and 571 million just by taxing cannabis.
Didn't they do that in some American states? And the states are we have so much money now, and they can put it back into schools and stuff like that.
Yeah, but one thing they point out is that you shouldn't make the tax rate too high, because then it would still be cheaper to buy cannabis on the black market. Yeah. So, you've got to strike a balance, but I think that is quite a strong argument pro-legalisation.
Okay.
Although, on the flip side of legalisation, there are some countries that have extremely harsh punishments for cannabis. So, in the United Arab Emirates, even the smallest amount of the drug can lead to a mandatory 4-year prison sentence. Yeah. So, that, going from the 3 strikes and then you get 28 days in prison to straight away 4 years, I think is quite a big difference. And then in Iran, if you're caught with 5 to 20 grams of cannabis for the first time, you could get 40 lashes.
Oh, actual corporal punishment.
I know, it really shocked me that that's even still a thing.
I think a lot of these countries have strict laws on everything though. It's not just cannabis, to be fair. And
then if it's your second offence, 50 lashes.
Wait, so 40 to 50?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem quite...
But I feel lashes, even one would be probably pretty bad. So 40 lashes is probably awful. But yeah, in Nigeria, I think is probably one of the most extreme countries, and the possession of cannabis is illegal and punishable by a minimum of how many years in prison?
50.
12 years in prison.
12 years.
And this is because Nigeria is one of the major sources of cannabis grown in West Africa. So they're trying to combat the trafficking of the drug, out of the country. And that's why the sentences are so harsh. Although, on a lighter note, you know how, there's so many different names for, weed, marijuana, pot. One of the words in Nigeria is wee-wee.
Wee-wee. Got any of that wee-wee? Just hold on a moment.
Oh, no, I've just been to the toilet. No, that's not what I mean. Yeah, so there's a few countries where cannabis is already fully legal, although not many, actually. I thought there might be more, but in Canada, it's fully legal for recreational use. Georgia and...
No idea where that is.
South Africa, it's legal for possession and consumption, but not for sale.
Who sells it? To the government?
Well, I don't know. So there's a lot of... I think this is probably why this is a kind of top searched question, because a lot of countries, it's very vague laws. So you can have some, but you can't buy it. Yeah. And then it's okay. So for instance, in America, it's legalized in 11 states, but then it's decriminalized in a further 15 states.
Okay.
So I looked into the difference between decriminalization and legalization.
Yeah.
And so under decriminalisation, the production and the sale of marijuana still remains unregulated by the state. So that basically means it's just random people or quotations criminals that can sell it. But if you're caught using it, you don't face criminal charges. But there was quite a good Economist article about it that said, as long as supplying drugs remains illegal, the business will remain a criminal monopoly.
Makes sense,
so
I guess.
Decriminalisation, their point was it's a lose-lose, because going easy on the drug users while insisting the product remains illegal, it's kind of encouraging usage, so just boosting the criminal production of it.
I wonder if there's something else going on in terms of I don't know whether they're trialing it out or...
well, I think it is kind of a halfway house.
Yeah, to try and make other people happy or something, the public happier or something.
Yeah, I mean, my personal feeling is that something should either be legal or illegal. I think there is so much confusion around this that it just makes it so difficult. And then it puts you also, I feel as a user, in an awkward situation, because say you like having weed, but you're kind of almost cornered into... You can't give your money to a reputable source, but then also if you're well, I'll grow my own and just sell it to my friends, that's illegal.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's just too grey to really make the average person happy about it.
Yeah, I can see that it's not worth the effort and resources of policing casual users, and also I feel it doesn't seem that bad of an offence. But also it's the actual cannabis is not the issue. The issue is that your money could be going to these horrible farms in West Africa.
Yes.
That are obviously super unethical, but you're not allowed to grow and sell your own, local organic cannabis. So I don't know. I feel legalization is probably in the works, but I feel decriminalization just doesn't really help the situation as a whole, but that's just my opinion.
All right. This section's been going on for quite a while, but I want to get your honest opinion. Do you believe that weed should be legal in the UK?
I mean, yeah, probably. I feel I don't know that it would boost usage as much as sort of some people claim it would. I feel if you're going to use weed, you will, and either way. And people say that weed is dangerous because it's a gateway drug, but is it a gateway drug because it's weed and because of the slightly sort of mind-altering feeling you get from using it? Or is it dangerous because in order to get weed, you have to know people who sell drugs?
Yeah, which is...
And then they might sell you other drugs if they're part of a larger organisation, because that's how they get money, by selling you more and more addictive and more expensive drugs.
There's more to it than just... It's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
There's other factors around it.
Yeah. Would you like some stats? Do you want to do a stat quiz?
Yes. I want to try and guess some stuff.
So, how many young adults, which is 15 to 34-year-olds, report having used cannabis in the last year?
You want a number or a percentage? 30%.
High.
Yeah.
12.3%.
Okay.
You must know a lot of stoners. Do you think that males and females use it the same, or there's a bias?
Ooh. So the thing going through my head right now is I think like the idea of getting drugs is kind of scary, or like I feel like males would know people that sell more, so they're more likely to be able to get hold of it. But I also feel like there's probably no difference. I'm going to say no difference.
Okay. There actually is quite a big difference. So 15.6% of males and only 8.9% of females. Yeah, I don't know what the reason for that is, but yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. So cannabis is actually the most popular drug in the young adult section.
Okay.
What do you reckon's next most popular?
Paracetamol.
Of illegal drugs.
Oh, illegal drugs.
You think weed is more popular than paracetamol?
I don't know. No, but so after cannabis.
Yeah.
In the UK. Oh, I honestly don't really know that many drugs. Cocaine.
Yeah.
Oh.
4.7%.
Okay, that's a lot higher than I thought.
But that's still a lot less than for cannabis.
Yeah.
And then the one after that is MDMA. Yeah, so how much in kilograms of cannabis do you think was seized in 1 year, in 2016?
In kilos? 3,500.
12,615.2 kilograms.
I wasn't too far off.
Well...
In the grand scheme of things.
9,000 grams.
Any number between 0 and a million.
Yeah, but I felt like that must have been from some, like, big raid. I can't imagine them taking, like, 5 grams off every person.
In terms of volume, that must be quite a lot, because it's just,
where did they
mossy,
keep it?
right? Now they just used it. So, from burning weed to burning money. Is it illegal to burn money? What do you think?
Well, it is illegal if you burn it by spending it on weed, I suppose. But you mean literally?
I literally mean setting a light to it.
I don't know. I have a feeling that there's this whole thing about, like, because the Queen's face is on it, you can't deface the Queen's face.
Yep, so...
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it actually is. I wasn't going into this, that's what I thought as well, and it is a thing. So in the UK, it is illegal to deface money, but it's okay to destroy it. So like...
Oh, what? So if you drew a little moustache on the Queen, that's not allowed, but if you burn it, that's fine?
Yeah.
Huh.
And also, coinage is not allowed to be melted.
Okay.
So you can't melt it down into its raw components. In the USA, it is illegal to destroy money, and there are many different rules for different countries. So please check before you burn. If that's what you're going to be doing. Is that
a popular thing to do? Why is this even a popular search? Who's got enough money to burn it?
I don't know.
This is wild.
When I searched, why do people burn money? Because that was obviously my second question. Only 2 things came up. One is a political statement against capitalism.
Right.
Which makes sense, I guess, if you're wanting to make a statement about it. And
I feel like you're not achieving much, though, are you? Just shooting yourself in the foot. It's like, oh, do you want to go to Greg's after this protest? Oh, no, we can't. We burned all our money.
Yeah. I guess if you feel strongly enough about it. Which I think you would have to feel very strongly about it to be burning money. And the second reason is just art. Again, not really my style of art.
Anything's art these days, though, isn't it? Throw, to the banana on the wall. I feel like a pile of burning money is actually probably more interesting than a banana taped to a wall, so...
More interestingly, why is it illegal? Who cares if you just burn some paper? So the biggest issue is that burning money changes the amount in circulation, which means it changes the actual value of all the other pieces of money because there is less of it. It becomes more valuable. Obviously, just burning a small amount of it in the grand scheme of things is going to make absolutely no difference. 0.000 times 10 to the 100 doesn't really matter. But if you do it on a large scale, it could.
Yeah.
So,
well, I know that in some countries, like in India, they don't let any of their currency actually leave the country. So when I went, I couldn't get any, usually you get your holiday currency before you go.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get any from like a travel agency because there wasn't any.
Oh,
I had to get it when I was there because they want all the money in their country so that they know how much there is, I guess.
Yeah, I believe there is, every year they print new money, create new money, and some of that is accounted for in terms of like loss or just being destroyed.
Well, I think also if the money is like all knackered up when it comes to the bank, they will get back to the mint or something, or they'll get rid of it somehow, and then new money will get made.
There's a very interesting example of what happens when there's too much or too little money. So this is kind of the opposite of burning in a way, because this is an example of too much money, but it kind of just highlights the impact it can have. So in Germany during World War One, or just after World War One, they printed loads of money to try and boost the economy. But the trouble was that because there was so much, prices inflated along with it.
Yeah.
Meaning that a loaf of bread that would once cost half a mark now costs 2 million.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah, I did a bit about this when I did history at school, and there are like pictures of people walking around with literal like wheelbarrows of money.
Yeah, I saw those pictures.
Yeah, and it's just insane. It's like the money became so worthless.
So basically, different countries have different rules. If you're in the UK, you can destroy it if you really want to, but don't. It's pointless.
Yeah.
Give it to charity. If you don't want the money, give it to charity.
What if it's somebody else's money? Surely that's illegal.
I guess at that point you're destroying something which doesn't belong to you.
Yeah. Like
falls under
probably
that.
It becomes like stealing is the crime,
Yeah.
but more than the burning of it. I feel like that would be a worse crime if you stole someone's money and set it on fire, because then they couldn't get it back.
In front of them.
Yeah. That would be a real burn.
Good one.
On to the next topic. Is it illegal to drive barefoot / eat or smoke and drive? So,
If it's not, it should be.
would you drive barefoot?
Actually, I would, and I have. I'm okay with barefoot. That's fine.
Would you drive in flip-flops?
No, absolutely not.
What about walking boots?
That's walking boots is a very general.
Yeah.
Depends how well they fit.
So here's the law in a nutshell. It's not illegal to drive in the UK without shoes, and also the same applies for wearing flip-flops, but you have to be able to safely operate the controls. So,
Bit ambiguous.
yeah, for example, if you drive with wet feet, you're putting yourself and your passengers and other road users at risk, and so you can't drive the car safely, and that is illegal.
What, if you've got wet feet?
Yeah, if you've got wet bare feet that's slipping on the pedal.
I mean, it makes sense, but who's checking for that?
Yeah, so the thing that is illegal is careless or dangerous driving.
Yes.
So if you get pulled over and you're driving like a maniac, then you're breaking the law.
Yeah.
If you get in an accident and then they find out that you weren't wearing shoes, that could be used against you, if they're trying to decide whose fault it is. So you could be, fined or imprisoned even for dangerous driving.
Yeah, so if you get into an accident, make sure to take a picture of your feet and the other person's feet.
I feel like it's probably safest to have a sensible pair of shoes in your car if you're not already wearing some, but you're not breaking the law. So for instance, if you had shoes that were giving you really bad blisters or something, and then you couldn't, or if you're wearing walking boots that were too wide and you accidentally kept clipping the other pedal or something, or if one of the guidelines is your shoes should not be too heavy, so no new rocks whilst driving.
Yeah.
It's not illegal, but it's also not a good idea, especially if there's an incident. So is it illegal to eat and drive?
I don't think so.
I always have memories of when you go on road trips on your family and your dad's there driving and your mum's putting one crisp at a time into his mouth.
Or he's having a little sandwich on his lap or something.
Yeah, so it's not illegal to eat whilst driving, but if you get distracted while snacking or eating, then you can get prosecuted for careless driving if you're not in proper control. So you can get fined £100 and 3 penalty points if you're just driving with your knees eating tacos.
Yeah. No food that is easily messy.
I suppose if you're trying to eat soup from a bowl or something, it's just spilling everywhere and you're not holding the wheel. I think there's a limit to what's a sensible thing to eat in the car. And then this thing that I read, which I thought was actually pretty harsh, is that if you buy food through a drive-through and you use your mobile phone to pay, you can get done for using your phone whilst driving. That seems
bull.
so harsh, right?
Are you not supposed to like drive up and turn your engine off when you go up to the drive-throughs? I know no one
know.
does.
I feel
but
like
that'd be a way of getting over it, right?
the wait at each little bit is not usually long enough,
No.
is it? But I mean, I guess maybe it's just because if you've got your phone out and the screen is on, the temptation to check it is there. I don't know, but it probably is. Just depends like who sees and how much they care. But
Just imagine there's a policeman just sitting by all the drive-throughs, like ready to.
I bet they
pounce.
don't know about this nifty little law. I feel like the police have kind of bare things to do.
Yeah, you'd hope
but
so.
I guess there are, sometimes if there's someone who's really keen, they might try and prosecute you for that. So yeah, or still carry a card even though you think you might not need to.
Yeah.
And then the final one is smoking whilst driving.
That's definitely not illegal, but
Yeah.
I find absolutely mind-boggling how it's not
Yeah.
illegal. Just with like the ash that falls off, it's just like a dangerous version of food.
So it's the same law as with eating. It's not illegal in itself, but if it causes you a distraction behind the wheel, you could face charges of careless driving. Although from the 1st of October 2015, it's been illegal to smoke in a car carrying children
Yeah,
because of the passive smoking.
Yeah.
So you can get a £50 fine. So all of this information was from the RAC website, which is like a recovery service in the UK.
Solid,
and they
solid.
had a couple of things at the end, which was the age-old question: are men or women better drivers?
It depends what you mean by better.
So who's more likely to speed?
Men.
Well, this study says women are more likely to exceed the speed limit 17.5% more often than men.
Yeah, I would. So here's the thing. I think that probably women go over the speed limit probably more often, but when men go over the speed limit, they really fucking go over the speed limit.
So then in the same study, they found that men are more likely to damage the rental car they're driving. So when men go off the rails, they go really bad, whereas women just trying to get where they're going, not trying to trash the car. And then who's better at parking?
So typically men have better spatial awareness, but so I'm going to say men.
I would have thought men as well, because just from my personal experience of learning to drive, parking was horrible. It was such a nightmare. I could never figure out which way to turn the wheel, and it was awful. But in this, there's an NCP who run the car parks.
Oh, yeah.
They did a study, and that showed that women were better at parking, scoring 13.4 out of 20 for manoeuvring and 12.3 for guys. But I don't know what the scoring points were for.
Also, is this like basically people park in a car park or like during an actual test?
I assume in a car park, but maybe the scores were for like how close to the line are. Maybe women come out and in a bit more to get...
I would imagine men would park more carelessly.
Yeah, maybe if they're like, oh well, and
Whatever,
wonky, but my car's
yeah.
in. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was quite interesting, but I didn't really look into it any more than that. Rather than being like, women won, nice.
Male versus female, fight!
So we got another topic?
Yeah, I've got the last one, which I'm kind of surprised it came up, but whatever. Is it illegal to marry your cousin? What do you think? In the UK?
I feel like it depends of what level of cousin.
First
like,
cousin.
I want to say no, just because it seems kind of icky.
As in, it's illegal.
Yeah.
Nope, completely
It's
illegal.
legal.
What about the US?
Yeah.
Illegal.
No, legal.
So actually, it's split pretty much 50-50. Like I think it's something like 27 states it's legal, and then the other
really?
ones
That's
it's
interesting.
illegal.
Is it all the states in the south where it's legal?
I don't know. I did see a map, but I can't remember it.
I feel like I can't really bully the US if it's like legal in the UK though.
So, but it is illegal in China, Korea, and the Philippines. But to be honest, most of the world, including the UK, it's completely legal to marry your cousin.
That's really interesting.
So you said it's kind of icky, and the taboo nature of this, it kind of arose with the discovery of genes in the 19th century. This is because you have things called autosomal recessive genes, which normally lie dormant.
Yeah.
But if two family members have it, which they're likely to have, and then they get married and have children, they're much more likely to have these autosomal recessive genes be dominant.
Yeah.
Meaning they're like
They'll have
active.
two copies.
Exactly. And a lot of these defects are like diseases such as cystic fibrosis.
Yeah.
If this is the first time in your family two cousins have had a baby together, the chances of getting a defect is only increased by about 2%.
Okay.
So like the actual like incestuous nature of it is very minimal effect on whether the offspring is going to have a defect or not. But you've got to remember that as more and more generations interbreed, the chances of this becomes increasingly more and more.
Yeah.
So I think this is why it's generally like been frowned upon, is because in the birth, it was very normal before the 19th century for cousins to marry.
I feel like that's kind of a wealth thing as well, though, maybe. Like,
in what way?
so if you marry a first cousin, that's quite a close relative, and then you're keeping your, if you're an aristocratic family, for example, you're keeping all your wealth relatively safe within the family.
Yeah.
And then if you keep doing that for a few generations, I suppose, then there's more risks associated with it. But I feel like maybe sort of since the Industrial Revolution and the kind of class system broke down a bit, maybe it's less of a focus, the keeping of wealth, and there's more of an emphasis on earning money maybe now.
Yeah.
Because I suppose with like inheritance tax as well, you kind of are under more pressure to earn your own money rather than just inherit it, unless you're like obscenely wealthy.
I would imagine that's another reason why.
Yeah.
But it's marriage of first cousins is pretty common in Eastern cultures, like arranged marriages.
Yeah. I suppose that's a similar thing with the keeping it in the family.
There's actually been some fairly significant famous people in the past who married their first cousins, including Charles Darwin, who actually, he wrote about the risks of it before he got married.
To his own cousin?
Well, he wrote about the risks of marrying and having children with your first cousin, and then removed it from his book after his son was born.
But why did he remove it? Was he married to his cousin?
Yeah, no, so the people I'm listing are famous people that married their first cousins.
Oh, that is maximum orcs. Like...
But he just removed it. Like, nah, whatever.
There's his wife there just reading a book like, honey, what does this mean about genetic defects? And he's like, scratch that out. Oh, that is awkward.
Albert Einstein married his first cousin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Edgar Allan Poe. So that's it, really. Is it illegal to marry your cousin? No. Pretty much anywhere in the world is absolutely fine.
So overall, I think the searches were actually pretty justified, because quite a lot of these things were only... sort of legal. So like prank calls legal, but not if you harass someone. Weed is illegal, but you won't get that badly punished for just possession. Marrying your cousin is legal, but maybe not a good idea. And
burning money is fine.
Burning money is fine, but probably also not a good idea. Same with driving barefoot. Not a great idea, but if you can do it safely, go ahead. Yeah. So I think we learned quite a lot this episode.
We did. And I hope you guys enjoyed learning as well.
So thanks for listening.
Yeah, and remember, guys, if you want to give us any ideas or you have any thoughts for like the first phrase that we can type in, we'd love to hear your feedback. You can email us at searchcompletepodcast@gmail.com.
And our Twitter handle is scpodcast_UK.
I'm Doug.
And I'm Yvette.
Thanks for listening.